So as I was preparing for one of my assessments in my pediatrics rotation, I had used ChatGPT in a particular way, and I'm going to be sharing this technique. The reason as to why I'm sharing it is because it has some important principles, both in the use of these foundational models like ChatGPT, and also an important principle in effective learning. And I believe if you're going to apply this with the principles that I'm going to share, it is going to significantly improve the effectiveness that you get out of this technology and also the effectiveness out of your study sessions. So if that is something that you think that is important to you, then just stick around. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Now if you're new, hi, my name is Simon. I'm a final year medical student at the University of Zambia, and on this channel I share basic productivity tips. I share principles and techniques that help you to be an optimal learner, and I also incorporate how to use these new technologies like AI in order to make sure that you get the best out of them with whatever you're doing. Now, with all of that said, let's get back to the topic for today. Now, if you have been watching me enough, you understand that I emphasize the principle that learning is not necessarily an event. It is a process, and there are multiple things that must be made for this process to actually happen. And for that reason, I am not a believer of one technique that just miraculously changes how you learn. It is actually a system. It is a group of things that you do that ensures that the right processes in your mind are happening that produce the learning. Therefore, this technique I mentioned that is going to be based on one principle, which is a component of effective learning. And so I'm going to start with that principle before I come to the actual technique, which I'm going to show you with the prompt and everything. I'm going to share my screen just in a bit. And that principle is on the principle of error feedback. Now, one of the books that I usually like to recommend, it's a book which I love. It's very technical, but it's a very good book. It's on How We Learn by Stanislaw Dehaene. This book produces some of the fundamental principles that are indispensable to effective learning, and one of them is this error feedback. Now, what is error feedback? Error feedback generally is the process by which your brain learns by correcting the errors that it makes. Now, this is very important and fundamental because you're going to discover that for everything that you don't know, most of the times you have a hypothesis. So most of the times that you are learning something new, you are literally just making sure that your hypothesis is as correct as possible. So you're reducing the amount of error that you have. Now, this can happen on a conscious level, but it can also happen on an unconscious level. The other things that I would like to add to this is from the book Ultra Learning. It's by Scott Young. He mentions 3 types of errors. The first error is the outcome error. Now, the outcome error just shows you whether you got it correct or you got it wrong. The information feedback, by the way, these are feedback. So the outcome feedback and then the information feedback tells you about why, how, what you got wrong. It explains what exactly you got wrong. And then you also have the corrective feedback. The corrective feedback is the one now that leads you into the correct path. And this is what usually teachers do. So what teachers will do is they will give you examples and they test you by giving you an exercise. When they give you an exercise, they will be able, first of all, to mark you either correct or wrong, and that is going to say outcome feedback. After that, they are going to tell you exactly where you went wrong. They are going to pinpoint to say, here the answer you got it wrong because you thought like this, because you had this wrong assumption, because you had this. And the corrective feedback is, instead of doing this, you're supposed to do this and this. Now, this may look like it's a very simple thing, but it is extremely powerful. It is very important. It is indispensable. You have to be able to give yourself feedback for the errors that you make in order for you to learn. Now, if you do not even engage in activities that are going to allow you to make these errors so that you can do the feedback, then at the end of the day, you're not going to be learning anything. Because the other principle, which I'm not going to go deep into in this video, is on active engagement. So you engage actively with the material, or you engage actively with the skill that you're doing, and then you allow yourself to get the feedback. Now, if all of us had the best of teachers readily available for us anytime that we need them, feedback would have been slightly better to get. But the world is not like that. Most of the time you are studying on your own, you'll be getting feedback from books and everything. But I would like to suggest that in as much as these foundational models, the large language models like ChatGPT, Claude, or anything else that you're using, They are not the best at giving feedback yet. They cannot match human beings, at least according to my current knowledge, but they are actually very good. They are good enough. And it is very important for you to actually exploit that ability that they have, the ability to give you feedback. Now, I'm not going to go into anything else at this point. I would like to demonstrate exactly what I mean through these principles in a demonstration of exactly what I did. So I'm going to show you a prompt, and I'll be adding a few things here and there that I think may be important. So this is one of the prompts that I had put in as I was preparing. Now I'm going to read out the prompt as you are going to be seeing it on the screen, and I want you to notice a couple of things that I'm going to be mentioning. This is my prompt. You are a consultant pediatrician and you want to assess me, a final year medical student, on sickle cell disease. Just from this statement, remember, I have always mentioned that prompt engineering is very important. You must learn how to put in a prompt. From this, I tell ChatGPT its role. It's a consultant pediatrician. So whatever it is going to be giving me, it is going to be acting in the place of a consultant pediatrician. Now, quite right, ChatGPT is not a consultant pediatrician, but by providing it with this context, it is able to get from the expertise that it has in a way that it is going to be answering like a consultant pediatrician. And I'm a final year medical student. Now, this is also important context because the way it is going to be giving me information, I want it to be at the level of at least a final year medical student. Your aim is to assess my precise understanding. It's very important, the words that I'm using. My precise understanding of the condition, including the details, according to information in Nelson's textbook of pediatrics. I also give it a reference because I just want to make sure that I'm getting information. This book that I mostly use, of course, in addition to other books, and the latest research findings, and also to assess my application of that knowledge in the clinical evaluation and management of the patient. So at this point in time, I'm sure you have seen that I'm being very specific about what I want this consultant pediatrician to do for me. And so you decide to ask me questions that are meant to test the mentioned objectives and critically analyze my answers and give me feedback. Now, what this feedback is going to involve is what I have gotten correct, what I don't understand well, and the implications. Your aim is to do all of this in exactly 10 questions, one at a time. Start. Now, when I put in this prompt, trust me, the kind of feedback I was getting from this was actually very impressive. Now, I have interacted with consultant pediatricians before. I can definitely tell you that ChatGPT may not have the kind of context that they do have dependent on the region that they are in. So, for example, when I'm interacting with the consultant pediatricians, during my actual rounds, they have more context, they have more applicable knowledge because they are speaking with the epidemiology of Zambia in view. They are speaking, with all their experience and everything. ChatGPT may be a bit theoretical, but at this point in time, I'm trying to get the best that I can get out of it. And remember, this is not my only way of learning. This is just one of the things that I do. I still go to the word, I still do all of those things, but I'm going to be getting feedback from ChatGPT. So it mentions, now what it does is it actually gives me what it is going to do. So it is going to critically assess its scientific accuracy. So like my scientific accuracy, identify what I answered correctly, point out omissions, inaccuracies, and misconceptions. Yes, that's what I want. Explain why those points matter clinically, which is the implication which I mentioned. Then it gives me a score out of 10. So what I would do is it would give me a question. So for example, the question, define sickle cell disease precisely. And what it wants me to describe is that I have to have a precise definition of sickle cell disease, the molecular genetic defect responsible for the disease, the mode of inheritance, and also explain why the disease usually is not present during the first few months of life. Now, what I would do because of time, I would not actually even spend time typing. What I would just do is I would just dictate. I'm sure you can see this little icon here on dictating. I would literally just dictate my answer. And because sickle cell disease was one of the topics which I was very, very comfortable with, it's a very common condition here in Zambia. So it's something that I was very, very good at. So I definitely managed to do a lot of things. So what it would do, what I got correct, it would give me what I got correct. These are the things that I correctly explained, then areas that need refinement. Now, it was not only sickle cell disease. I actually used this. I think the first question I had used this one was on a condition that I did not understand very well, and that was on nephrotic syndrome. Actually, you can see from what I'm scrolling on my screen here that the running total rather, the first time I got like a 5.5 out of 10 for the first question that I did. So the first thing that it asked is, define nephrotic syndrome precisely. In your answer, you should include a precise definition, the diagnostic criteria, the underlying pathophysiological abnormality that unifies all the clinical features. Now, trust me, these are questions probably maybe that I'll never be asked by a consultant, but literally for me to try to formulate an answer for these three questions required for me to think really deeply about this condition. It required me to think very, very well so that I can eventually put everything in a very good answer. So I gave the answer and it gave me feedback. At first, it gave me a 5.5. I'm straight going to run you to the kind of feedback that it gave me. I will not bore you with my answer. The kind of feedback that it gave me, first of all, it mentioned the things that I got correct. Yeah. Then it came on what was incomplete. Its mention says, your definition is incomplete. What I said is characterized by protein in urine, that is 3+ on urinalysis, edema, and hypercholesteremia. This is not the precise definition. A more accurate definition is syndrome is a clinical syndrome characterized by massive nephrotic range proteinuria, hypoalbuminemia, generalized edema, and hyperlipidemia. Now, what is missing from my answer is the hypoalbuminemia and the massive nephrotic range proteinuria instead of simply 3+ protein. If you're not in medicine or you actually don't know what all of this is talking about, I don't want you to worry. The point I'm trying to give is it can actually give you feedback. It can be able to actually analyze your answer critically and give you feedback. And that is going to be very helpful. The correction that you get from getting something wrong produces a lot of learning that most of the people underestimate. And I can promise you that if you can just use ChatGPT in this way, it is going to be a better use of your time and it is definitely going to help you a lot. Okay, so what is the summary in terms of what is the conclusion or the action points that I would love you to take from this video? The first thing is, remember, learning is a process and there are multiple things that must exist in order for it to happen effectively. From this technique, there are multiple principles that I've been using. So try this technique on anything that you're learning. Use ChatGPT. It should ask you questions. Put in a proper prompt like this one and allow it to give you critical feedback. And remember the principles of good prompt engineering. You can check them out in other sources so that you can be using this technology in a language that it actually understands. Alright guys, that's it for today. If you like this video, share and like. Subscribe to my channel if you're watching this on YouTube, or follow my page if you're watching this on Facebook. See you next time.